Captain Jack Morrison stood at the viewing window of the Earth Alliance vessel Defiant, the massive Galactic Council station loomed ahead, its ring-shaped structure glittering against the backdrop of stars. Jack straightened his uniform and checked his reflection. In the polished surface, this was supposed to be a routine diplomatic mission. Deliver Earth's quarterly reports, attend a few meetings, and head back home. Captain, we've received docking clearance, said Lieutenant Mary Davis from her console. Council security requests your presence immediately upon arrival. Jack raised an eyebrow. Immediately? That's unusual. Any indication what this is about? No, sir. The message was brief, almost tour. Jack nodded slowly. In his 5 years as Earth's liaison to the Galactic Council, he'd learned that alien species rarely rushed anything. The Council, comprising representatives from 27 space-faring civilizations, typically moved at the pace of a particularly lazy glacier. Well, let's not keep them waiting, Jack said with a shrug. Commander Scott, you have the bridge. 90 minutes. Later, Jack found himself standing alone in the center of the council chamber, a vast circular room with tiered seating that rose toward the distant ceiling. The representatives of each species sat in their environmental bubbles, some requiring methane atmospheres, others needing higher gravity or different light spectrums. The grand speaker, a tall, willowy alder with skin like polished silver, rose from the central podium. Captain Morrison of Earth, the speaker announced, voice amplified throughout the chamber, you stand before the United Galactic Council on a matter of grave importance. Jack maintained a neutral expression. United Council, that alone was cause for concern. The Council members agreed on almost nothing. We have observed your species with growing alarm, continued the speaker. Humans have demonstrated dangerous innovation rates, unpredictable aggression patterns, and a concerning disregard for established galactic protocols. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. Jack noticed several representatives making their species equivalent of nodding despite repeated warnings. Earth continues expansion beyond authorized sectors. Your technology development has exceeded permitted advancement rates by 317%. Your diplomatic engagements have disrupted existing alliances. Jack thought about interrupting, decided against it. Better to let them finish. Therefore, the speaker's voice rose dramatically. By unanimous vote, the Galactic Council hereby declares a state of war against the planet Earth and all human settlements. You have 3 standard cycles to surrender unconditionally or face the combined might of the Council forces. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye sensor cluster or sensory appendage focused on Jack, clearly expecting shock, fear, or desperate pleading. Jack scratched his chin. Just to be clear, you're declaring war on Earth because we're moving too fast for your comfort. Your species represents an existential threat to galactic stability. Hystereptilian Century representative. Mom, Jack considered this and this combined. Might he mention that would be the same fleet that struggled to contain the Proxima pirate raids last year, the ones our patrol boats had to bail out. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. This is not a negotiation, the speaker declared. You will inform Earth's leadership of our terms immediately. Jack shrugged. Sure. I'll pass along the message. His casual Response created a wave of confused chittering among the council. You do understand we are declaring war. Emphasized a bulbous acrylic. Representative, its translation unit. Struggling to convey appropriate urgency. I understand completely, Jack replied calmly. Is there anything else? Because if not, I should probably head back and let everyone know about this. 2 security officers escorted Jack from the chamber. As the doors closed behind him, he heard the eruption of multiple alien languages as the council members tried to make sense of his reaction. Back aboard his shuttle, Jack opened a secure channel to Earth. Command, we might have a situation, he said, fighting back a smile, though. Personally, I think the council has no idea what they've just started. President Olivia Carter looked around the table at the assembled military and civilian leaders. The emergency meeting had been called within hours of Captain Morrison's transmission from the Galactic Council. The room was quiet, but not with fear. Instead, there was an air of focused determination mixed with something that almost resembled amusement. So the president said, Galactic Council has declared war on humanity because we're developing too quickly and making them nervous. Admiral William Peterson, a weathered man with salt and pepper hair, leaned forward. Madame President, I've reviewed our intelligence on Council military capabilities. They have impressive numbers, but their tactics are predictable and outdated. They haven't fought a real war in over 3 centuries. Dr. Nancy Wright, head of the scientific division, nodded in agreement. Their technology is advanced in some areas, but it all follows established patterns. They innovate by committee, with each advance requiring approval from multiple species. We can exploit that. The president drummed her fingers on the table. What about civilian casualties? How do we protect our colonies? Most of our outer settlements already have defensive capabilities, said General Frank Howard. We've always prepared for the possibility that first contact might not go well. Our civilian evacuation protocols were updated last month. Secretary of State Linda Brown, who had been quietly taking notes, finally spoke up. What strikes me is that they expect us to surrender within 3 days. They clearly have no understanding of human nature. A low chuckle spread around the table. It's not funny, the president said, though her lips twitched with the hint of a smile, but it is revealing. The council thinks this declaration will shock us into submission. Admiral Peterson stood and walked to the display screen. Earth has faced extinction level threats before, from nature, from ourselves, and now from beyond, but this, he pulled up an analysis of council fleet movements. This is hardly the worst odds we faced. The room grew serious again as they discussed specific defense plans, colony reinforcements, fleet deployments, emergency production schedules. The real challenge, Dr. Wright pointed out, is minimizing casualties on both sides. If we simply wanted to defeat them, we could deploy the Nova bombs or the gravity disruptors. The president shook her head firmly. Absolutely not. We don't want to destroy them. We just need to demonstrate that we're not worth the trouble. In the corner of the room, Captain Jack Morrison, who had returned from the council meeting just hours ago, watched with interest. The aliens would be shocked to see this calm, methodical response. They had expected panic. What about our alien allies? Asked Vice Admiral Deanne Miller, the Arxer, and Eleanor aren't part of the council. They might provide support, Secretary. Brown nodded. The Arxer ambassador has already pledged non-intervention but offered medical supplies. The Aligner are considering their position. The president stood signaling the meeting was wrapping up. We proceed with defensive operations only, no strikes against civilian targets. Maintain communication channels when they realize their mistake. We want an easy path to peace. She looked around the room. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own nuclear arsenals. We've rebuilt from disasters and pushed forward. This is just one more challenge. As the meeting broke up, Captain Morrison approached Admiral Peterson. You know, Morrison said quietly, when the council announced the war declaration, they expected me to beg or threaten or at least argue. I think my shrug unsettled them more than anything else. The Admiral laughed. Of course it did. They'd spent thousands of years avoiding conflict through bureaucracy and compromise. They'd forgotten what it means to face an existential threat and keep going. Outside the meeting room, alerts were already spreading through Earth's defense network. Ships moved into position, colonies activated, shields, production facilities shifted to military supplies. But on the streets of cities around the world, life continued almost normally. News of the declaration was met with determined social media posts, grim jokes, and Earth versus Council merchandise appearing almost instantly online. The Council had declared war. Humanity was getting on with the business of surviving as it always had. Lieutenant Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Vigilant. 4 other human vessels formed a defensive screen around the mining colony on Europa. Intelligence had warned that this would likely be one of the first targets for the Council forces. Contact called out. Ensign Rick Harris from the sensor station. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Susan straightened her uniform. How many? 37 vessels. Lieutenant Council markings. Standard wedge formation. Susan nodded calmly. The Council ships outnumbered her patrol fleet by more than 7 to 1. According to protocol, she should retreat and call for reinforcements. Open a communication channel, she ordered. Instead, her communications officer looked surprised but followed the order. Channel open, broadcasting on all standard Council frequencies. Susan stepped forward. This is Lieutenant Susan Miller of the Earth Alliance Patrol Fleet. Council vessels, you are approaching a civilian mining operation by the Galactic Treaty of Neutral Commerce, which remains in effect during hostilities. This colony is protected territory. We request you state your intentions. For several long moments, there was only silence. Then the main screen flickered to life, showing a Zenter commander. His scaled face and yellow eyes conveyed what Susan interpreted as contempt. Human vessel. The Zenturi hissed, I am Fleet Commander Vexhorn. Your references to treaties are irrelevant. The Council has declared war. Surrender your ships and evacuate the colony. You have 10 minutes to comply. Susan kept her expression neutral. Commander Vexer, we still have diplomatic channels open with the Council. This conflict can be resolved without bloodshed. I offer you one opportunity to withdraw. The Zentering made a barking sound that might have been laughter. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Human, your primitive ships cannot stand against Council technology. Do not waste my time with empty threats. Susan sighed and nodded to her tactical officer end transmission. She turned to her crew. Battle stations, deploy into Sunflower Formation. Sunflower Formation, questioned her second in command. That's a training exercise. Pattern, it's not meant for actual combat. Exactly, Susan said with a small smile. They won't expect it. The 5 human ships moved into what looked like a scattered, disorganized pattern. From the Council vessel's perspective, it appeared that the humans had no coherent strategy. Commander Vexer watched the humans' seemingly chaotic movements with satisfaction. His intelligence briefings had described humans as dangerous but undisciplined. This confirmed it. Begin the attack, he ordered. Standard spearhead approach. The Council ships accelerated forward in their precise formation, energy weapons charging as they closed the distance. What happened next would later be studied in Council militarisms across the galaxy. The scattered human vessels suddenly moved in ways that defied conventional space combat tactics. They accelerated at rates that should have crushed their crews. They turned at angles that seemed to ignore physics, and most disturbingly, they flew directly toward the incoming Council ships. They're on suicide runs, shouted Vexer's tactical officer, but the human ships weren't trying to ram them. Instead, they were executing a complex dance through the Council formation, firing precise shots at engines and weapon systems before slipping away. Council ships collided with each other, trying to track the nimble human vessels. Their coordinated formation, their greatest strength, became their biggest vulnerability as human ships maneuvered between them, causing Council gunners to hit their own allies. Within 20 minutes, 7 Council ships were disabled, 9 were heavily damaged, and the remainder were falling back in disarray. Susan's fleet had lost 1 ship and 2 others showed damage, but they maintained position around the colony. Open a channel again, Susan ordered, brushing debris from her uniform as emergency systems finally extinguished a small fire at the back of the bridge. This is Lieutenant Miller. Our offer to talk remains open. We will not pursue your retreat, but we will defend our people. Your wounded ships are welcome to remain for emergency repairs before departing. As the Council fleet limped away, Susan added one final message: we're still open to talks. Whenever you're ready. Greg Taylor checked his disguise in the small mirror. The blue skin dye covered every visible inch of his body, and the prosthetic head ridges looked convincing enough to pass as a Mercuran traitor. He turned to his team in the cramped quarters of their unmarked ship. Remember, we're not here to fight, Greg said, adjusting his alien clothing. Our mission is information gathering only. We need to understand why the Council really declared war. Samantha Jones, the team's tech expert, nodded as she finished applying her own disguise. Her normally blonde hair was now hidden under a scaled skull cap. The official reason makes no sense. Even if they don't like our innovation rate, war seems extreme. That's why we're here. Greg replied, something doesn't add up. Paul Martinez, their linguist, practiced his Mercurian accent one more time. Trade goods very cheap, special deal. For Council friends, his voice vibrated in the distinct pattern of Mercuran speech. Karen Wilson, cultural specialist, gave him a thumbs up. Perfect, just remember to keep your sentences simple. Mercurians don't use complex grammar, their ship disguised as a small trading vessel approached the massive space station known as Market Hub, located in neutral territory. At the edge of Council space, it served as the galaxy's largest black market, where species from all corners traded goods both legal and illegal. Docking. Permission granted, Samantha announced. From the control panel, we're assigned to Bay 94 Merchant Section. Once aboard the station, the team split into pairs. Greg and Samantha headed toward the information broker's quarter while Paul and Karen visited the trade halls too. Listen for gossip. Greg approached a six-armed alien hunched over a drink in a dimly lit corner. Information about Council war with humans. Why real? He asked in broken Galactic standard. Playing his Mercurian role, the aliens. Idoc swiveled toward him. Information expensive. What trade? Greg placed a small container on the table. Earth spices, very rare now. War makes price high. The broker's appendages quickly pulled the container closer. After inspecting it, the alien leaned forward. Council not united as appears. Top members force war vote. 3. Species control rare resources. Threatened others. Which 3? Greg asked Zenter Alderan's Krillix. They fear humans discover their secret. What secret? The alien looked around. Nervously, they steal technology from primitive worlds, claim his own, build power this way for centuries. Humans getting too close to learning truth. Later regrouping on their ship, the team shared discoveries. I found something interesting, Samantha said, connecting her data pad to the main display. Council records show several member species have been secretly trading with humans for years against official policy. Paul nodded. That matches what we heard in the markets. Many traders said they prefer dealing with humans. Called us refreshingly straightforward compared to Council species. Karen added, I spoke with a Tellerate merchant who said his government only voted for war under threat. The Zenturi apparently threatened to cut off essential medical supplies. Greg paced the small cabin. So the Zenturi, Alderans, and Krillix forced this war to hide their own crimes, while many Council species actually like dealing with humans. There's more, Samantha said. Look at these trade records I sliced from the station database. 3 species pushing for war have been stockpiling weapons and ships from non-Council manufacturers for years. They were planning this long before the official vote. Greg sat down heavily. They're not just afraid we'll expose their technology theft. They're afraid of us, period. Our way of doing things threatens their control of the Council. What do we do with this information? Karen asked. We take it back to Earth. Greg replied. This changes everything. The Council didn't declare war on us. 3 species manipulated the others into it. That means we don't need to defeat the entire Council. We just need to expose the truth. As their ship prepared to leave, an alert sounded. Patrol vessels approaching. Samantha reported Council markings. Zenturi command. They spotted us, Greg said. Grimly, everyone to stations. We need to get this information home, no matter what. Ambassador Albert Freeman stood before his communication screen, reviewing the personalized messages he was about to send. The intelligence that Greg Taylor's team had brought back, despite their narrow escape from Zenturi. Patrol ships had changed the entire approach to the conflict. Are you sure about this strategy, sir? Asked his Assistant Lisa Chen, sending different messages to each council species seems risky. Albert nodded confidently. The council isn't the unified body they pretend to be. Greg's team proved that. We need to exploit those divisions. On his screen were 27 carefully crafted messages, one for each council species. Each message revealed the manipulation by the Zenturi, Aldarians, and Krillix, but with specific details that would resonate with that particular species. Values and concerns. For the Volphids, we emphasize how the technology theft violates their cultural beliefs about earned knowledge, Albert explained. For the Jurex, we focus on the economic impact of the three species monopoly. Lisa looked impressed. You're not just telling them they've been lied to. You're telling them why it matters to them. Specifically, exactly, and each message includes peace terms tailored to their interests. Albert pressed the transmit button. Now we wait. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, chaos erupted as the messages arrived simultaneously. Species that had voted together for war just days earlier now turned on each other with accusations and demands for explanation. The Zenturi representative, Vexer, who had been promoted after his fleet's retreat from Europa, slammed a clawed fist on his console. These are human lies. Do not be deceived by their desperate tactics, but the damage was done. The Tellerate representative stood up, voice projector turned to maximum volume. We have records proving that Zenturi threatened our medical supply lines if we did not support the war. Vote. Is this how allies treat each other? The elegant Algerian speaker tried to call for order, but for the first time in council history, no one listened. Centuries of carefully maintained political alliances fractured in minutes as species realized how they had been manipulated. In Earth orbit, Admiral Peterson watched a holographic display of ongoing skirmishes across 3 star systems. Despite being outnumbered, human ships continued to hold defensive positions, avoiding direct attacks but preventing council forces from reaching civilian targets. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're getting unusual readings from the council fleet in the Proxima sector. They appear to be fighting each other. The admiral leaned forward. Confirm that. Our council ships firing on their own allies? Yes, sir. Tellarite and Jurex vessels are engaging Zenturi ships. It's spreading to other sectors too. A smile slowly spread across the admiral's weathered face. Ambassador Freeman's plan is working. The council is dividing on the planet Krillos, home of the Krylic species. Civilian protests filled the streets. News of their government's deception had leaked from the council chamber to the public. Signs in various alien scripts demanded truth and an end to the war with humans. Back on Earth, President Carter received updates from both military and diplomatic channels. The council's unified front had collapsed in less than 12 hours after Ambassador Freeman's messages. Madame President, a general reported, we've received surrender offers from 4 council species already. They're asking for separate peace deals. The president nodded thoughtfully. Accept their offers conditionally. No punitive terms, but we want their public acknowledgement of the deception that led to war. On the battlefield, human forces continued their unusual approach to warfare. After disabling the Zenturi cruiser, a human medical ship approached to offer assistance to the injured. When a Vulft colony suffered environmental system failures during a battle, human engineers helped with repairs despite technically being at war with them. These actions confounded Council military commanders but created a powerful impression among the rank and file soldiers of many species. Why do they help us even as we fight them? Asked the young Tellarite officer watching. Humans deliver emergency supplies to their damaged vessel. His commander shook his head slowly. I begin to think we have greatly misunderstood these humans. Captain Carol Hudson of the medical ship Nightingale was checking supply inventories when the alert sounded. Her ship had been providing aid to both human and alien casualties near the Epsilon sector. Captain, we have an incoming Council vessel, reported her tactical officer Jason Reed. It's a Tellarite battle cruiser. Carol moved quickly to the bridge. Weapons status. That's the strange part, ma'am. Their weapons are powered down. They're broadcasting on an open channel. Requesting asylum. Carol raised her eyebrows, put them through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a Tellarite officer. His pig-like features were set in what Carol recognized as an expression of deep concern. Human vessel, I am Commander Mox of the Tellarite Defense Force. My crew and I wish to defect. We have critical intelligence to share with Earth authorities. Carol studied the alien carefully. Commander Mox, this is Captain Hudson. Why should we trust this? Isn't a trap. The Tellarite made a gesture Carol didn't recognize. I will send my ship's command codes as proof. You can remotely lock down our weapon systems. We surrender completely. After verifying the codes and consulting with Earth Command, Carol allowed the Tellarite ship to dock with the Night Andal. Commander Mox and a small group of his officers were escorted to the conference room. My government never wanted this war, Mox explained, accepting a cup of water from a human medic. Many Council species have secretly admired humans. Your direct approach to problems, your adaptability, even your strange humor. Then why declare war on us? Carol asked. The Zentari, Alarians and Krillix control key Council positions. They threaten those who oppose the war. But there's more. Mox placed a data crystal on the table. This contains evidence of how they've systematically distorted information about humans throughout Council space. Carol inserted the crystal into a reader. The screen showed examples of peaceful human actions being reframed as threatening. Agricultural assistance described as biological warfare testing. Cultural exchanges labeled as infiltration attempts. They've been afraid of you for decades. Mox continued, not because you're dangerous, but because your way of life threatens their control. Humans solve problems directly. The Council leaders prefer problems that never get solved so they can maintain power. Carol shook her head in disbelief. What made you decide to defect now? Mox looked embarrassed. 3 days ago, my ship was damaged in a skirmish with your patrol fleet. Instead of destroying us when we were vulnerable, your ships offered medical evacuation for our wounded. This kindness is considered weakness in Council military doctrine, but I saw the truth. He looked around at the medical ship. You were helping the same people you were fighting. In my 300 years, I've never seen such behavior. I showed my crew the uncensored records of human history that I had secretly collected. They agreed to come with me. While Captain Hudson spoke with Mox, the Tellerate crew members were being treated for minor injuries in the medical bay. They watched in fascination as human doctors cared for patients from 6 different species, including some whose governments were still fighting against. Earth, you treat everyone the same, observed a young Tellerite engineer too. The human nurse bandaging his arm. Of course, she replied simply, injured is injured, doesn't matter where you're from. News of the Tellerite defection spread quickly through both human and council communications channels. Within hours, 3 more council ships approached human positions with requests to surrender on the Nightingale. Carol forwarded Commander Mox's intelligence to Earth Command. This changes everything, she told her first officer. The council has been systematically lying about us to their own people for years. What happens now? He asked. Now, Carol said with a small smile, we show them who we really are. She looked at the Tellerite commander. And I think Commander Mox is going to help us do that. Mox nodded solemnly. My people deserve the truth. All council species do. This war was built on lies, and only truth will end it. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council headquarters buzzed with tension. 2 weeks into the war that was supposed to bring humans to their knees, the council instead found itself in disarray. Their military efforts had faltered. Their unity had fractured. Now they waited for the human representative who had requested this emergency session. Massive doors swung open. Vice President Benjamin Clark walked in with a small delegation. He moved confidently to the speaker's podium, seemingly unconcerned by the hundreds of alien eyes watching him. Members of the Galactic Council then began, his voice calm and measured. I come with a proposal that may surprise you. The aliens shifted in their environmental bubbles. They had expected demands, threats, or even gloating from the humans who had so far defied their expectations in every way. Earth offers an immediate ceasefire, Ben continued, followed by open negotiations for Earth to join the Galactic Council. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Centauri representative rose to object, but Ben held up his hand and continued, however, we will join only as equals, not as subjects, and we have conditions. He nodded to his aide, who activated a holographic display. Images appeared, showing secret meetings between Centauri, Alderaan, and Krillic officials, records of threatened sanctions against lesser council species, evidence of stolen technology from primitive worlds. This information comes not just from our intelligence services, but from members of your own governments. Ben explained, many of you were forced to support this war against your will and better judgment. A Larian speaker, clearly distressed, finally spoke up. You come here after humiliating our forces, expose our private council matters, and then expect to join us. The arrogance of humans knows no bounds. Ben smiled slightly. You misunderstand. We don't wish to embarrass anyone. We want to help. Another hologram appeared, showing complex schematics. These are designs for energy production technology we developed a decade ago. We're offering this freely to all council species. No restrictions, no patents, no licensing fees. The first of many technological and cultural exchanges we propose. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't seeking revenge, they were offering partnership. But what of the war? Asked a Jurex representative. We have attacked your Colonies threatened your home world. War's end, Ben said simply. People move. Forward, it's what humans have always done. He tapped another control, displaying a detailed document. This is our proposal for integrating Earth into the Council structure. You'll notice it includes reforms to prevent any species from gaining the kind of control that led to this unnecessary conflict. Tellerate representative, emboldened by Commander Mox's widely publicized affection, spoke up. How long have you had these plans ready? Since first contact 43 years ago, Ben replied. While the Council was deciding whether humans were a threat, we were preparing for the day we might join you as allies. The Council members were stunned by this revelation. You've been planning to join us all along, even as we declared you enemies? Asked the Volfid representative. Humans prefer friendship to conflict, Ben explained. We've just gotten very good at the latter because we've had so much practice throughout our history. He looked around the chamber. We're offering a choice: continue a war that benefits no one or build something better together. The Council has fostered peace among its members for centuries. We respect that achievement and want to be part of it. The silence that followed was finally broken by the Jurex representative. I move that we vote on the human proposal for ceasefire and negotiations. Seconded came voices from a dozen different species as the votes began to register on the main display. Ben stepped away from the podium. Abe leaned close. Do you think they'll accept? She whispered. Ben watched the vote count climbing. They will, because deep down most species want the same things: peace, prosperity, a future for their children. We're not so different. After all, by evening the ceasefire was official. News spread across Council, space and human colonies alike. A war that was supposed to last years had effectively ended after just 17 days. 6 months after what humans had nicknamed the 3-week war. Maria Rodriguez adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as she prepared to enter the chamber. Today marked a historic moment. The first session of the reformed Galactic Congress, which had replaced the old Council structure. Ready? Ambassador asked her aide, Sam Parker. Maria nodded. As ready as I'll ever be to represent humanity in Galactic government. They walked through the grand entrance where a new plaque displayed the Congress motto in multiple languages: unity through diversity. The chamber itself had been redesigned. Gone were the hierarchical tiers that had placed more powerful species above others. Now all representatives sat in an equal circle. Maria took her seat between the Tellerite and Jurex representatives. Commander Mox, now serving as the Tellerite ambassador, gave her a respectful nod. Your people have changed everything, he said quietly. 6 months ago, I would not have believed this possible. The former Zenturi, Algerian, and Krillic leaders who had manipulated the Council into war had been removed from power. Their replacements, elected through new democratic processes, sat uncomfortably in their places, still adjusting to their reduced influence. The new Grand Speaker, a Volfid chosen by random selection as part of the reformed system, called the session to order. Our first item of business is the joint human-alien military exercises proposed for the Proxima sector. The Speaker announced a display showed plans for combined fleet operations where ships from 20 species would train together sharing tactics and technology, human contribution, adaptability, and unconventional thinking was specifically highlighted as valuable. Who would have thought, whispered the Jurex representative to Maria, that just months after declaring you enemies, we would be eager to learn from human military methods. Maria smiled. War makes strange neighbors into stranger friends. The vote to approve the exercises passed easily. Next came trade agreements, scientific cooperation, initiatives, and cultural exchange programs. The new Congress moved through decisions with an efficiency the old Council had never achieved. Near the end of the session, an urgent message arrived. The Grand Speaker read it silently, then addressed the chamber. With unusual gravity, we have received disturbing reports from our deep space monitoring stations. Unknown vessels have been detected beyond the outer rim. They match no known design and have destroyed 3 outposts without attempting communication. The chamber fell silent after centuries of relative peace within Council space. The idea of a genuine external threat was shocking. Initial analysis suggests technology far beyond our current capabilities. The speaker continued, this may represent a serious threat to all our worlds. Nervous murmurs filled the room. Species that had been space-faring for thousands of years looked genuinely afraid. The Aldarian representative rose. Perhaps we should establish a study committee to evaluate potential responses over the next standard year, he suggested, falling back on the old Council's bureaucratic approach to problems. Maria caught Sam's eye. Her aide gave a slight nod. It was time for humanity's perspective. Maria stood, all eyes turned to her, the representative of the species that just months ago had been declared the enemy. With respect, she said calmly, this is not the time for committees. If these unknowns are hostile, they won't wait for our reports to be filed. I propose an immediate joint response fleet with ships from all willing species. She looked around the chamber. Earth will contribute our best vessels and commanders. We face existential threats before we know how to handle them. The chamber remained quiet until Mach stood in support. The humans have shown us a better way to face challenges together, directly and without fear. One by one, other representatives stood. The Grand Speaker called for a vote, and the proposal passed almost unanimously. As the session ended, the Jurex representative approached Maria. You humans finally look serious, he observed. In all our dealings you have seemed so relaxed, even during war. Maria smiled. That's because most problems aren't worth getting worked up about. But this, she glanced at the display showing the unknown vessels. This is the kind of challenge that makes humans focus. And when humans focus, we tend to overcome things. She looked around at her alien colleagues now. Allies, besides, were not facing it alone anymore.